The roar of the crowd on the TV was deafening, but in that split second, the world went silent. Eli's hand, warm and hesitant, slid down to rest on my knee, and my heart stopped. I turned to him, our eyes locking, and in that moment, I knew nothing would ever be the same. It was a crisp October Sunday in Portland, Oregon. The kind of day where the air smelled of fallen leaves and the city hummed with the quiet anticipation of fall. I, Caleb Monroe, a 25-year-old graphic designer with a penchant for overthinking, had invited Eli Carter, my best friend since college, over to watch the Seahawks game. Eli, 26, was a high school history teacher with a laugh that could light up a room and a habit of wearing flannel shirts that always seemed one size too big. We'd been inseparable for years, sharing late-night talks, bad pizza, and dreams of escaping our small lives for something bigger. But today, something felt different. The living room in my tiny apartment was our usual hangout spot. A mismatched couch, a coffee table littered with snacks, and a TV that flickered if you didn't angle the antenna just right. Eli sprawled across the couch, his long legs stretched out, one arm slung casually over the backrest. I sat beside him, trying to focus on the game, but my eyes kept drifting to the way his fingers tapped rhythmically against the couch, the way his hazel eyes sparkled when he laughed at a bad call. "Dude, you see that?" Eli said, pointing at the screen as the Seahawks fumbled. His voice was warm, familiar, but there was an edge to it, like he was nervous. I nodded, barely registering the play. My mind was elsewhere, tangled in a question I'd been dodging for months. Why does being near him feel like standing on the edge of a cliff? We'd always been close, too close, maybe. Late nights studying in college had turned into shared secrets, stupid bets, and moments where our hands brushed and neither of us pulled away. But we never talked about it. Not once. In our small, progressive corner of Portland, being open about who you were was easier than in most places, but that didn't mean it was simple. I'd grown up in a conservative family in Idaho, where different was a dirty word. Eli's parents were more accepting, but he carried his own baggage. A high school ex who'd broken his heart and left him wary of trusting anyone too deeply. As the game droned on, Eli shifted closer, his knee brushing mine. I froze, hyper-aware of every point of contact. "You okay, Caleb?" he asked, his voice softer now, almost cautious. I nodded, but my throat was tight. The truth was, I wasn't okay. I was terrified. Terrified of what I felt, of what it meant, of what would happen if I said it out loud. His hand moved then, deliberate but slow, resting on my knee. My breath caught, and I looked at him. His eyes were searching, vulnerable, like he was waiting for me to run. But I couldn't. Instead, I placed my hand over his, my fingers trembling. The TV roared with the crowd, but all I heard was the pounding of my own heart. "Eli," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "What are we doing?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he leaned closer, his forehead almost touching mine. "I don't know," he said, his voice raw, "but I've wanted to do this for a long time." The next hour was a blur of confessions, halting words, and moments that felt too big for the tiny apartment we were in. Eli admitted he'd been in love with me for years, since our sophomore year when we'd stayed up all night talking about our dreams under a sky full of stars. I told him about the nights I'd lain awake, wondering if I was brave enough to face what I felt. We laughed, we cried, and we held each other like we were afraid the moment would slip away. But the world doesn't stop for love, and reality crept in fast. My phone buzzed, a text from my sister, Sarah. "Mom's asking when you're coming home for Thanksgiving. She's worried about you." I stared at the screen, the weight of my family's expectations crashing down. They didn't know about me. They didn't know I was gay. And now, with Eli's hand in mine, the secret felt heavier than ever. Eli noticed my silence. "You okay?" he asked again, his thumb brushing over my knuckles. I wanted to say yes, to pretend everything was fine, but I couldn't. "My family, they're not like yours," I said. "If I tell them about us, it's not just going to be a conversation. It's going to be a war." Eli's face softened, but there was a flicker of pain in his eyes. "I get it," he said. "My parents were cool, but it wasn't always easy. My ex, he outed me to half the school before I was ready. It was hell for a while." I squeezed his hand, my heart aching for him. "I'm sorry," I said. I don't know if I'm ready for that kind of fight." He nodded, but I could see the hurt he was trying to hide. "We don't have to tell anyone yet," he said. "We can figure this out together. Just don't shut me out. Okay?" I promised I wouldn't, but the fear lingered. That night, as Eli slept beside me, his arm draped over my chest, I stared at the ceiling, wondering how long we could keep this secret before it tore us apart. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of stolen moments and quiet fears. Eli and I fell into a rhythm. Secret dates at hole-in-the-wall diners, late-night walks along the Willamette River, and moments where we forgot the world existed outside our bubble. But the bubble wasn't bulletproof. At work, my coworker Maya, a sharp-witted 30-year-old with a knack for reading people, started asking questions. "You've been weirdly happy lately," she said one day, leaning over my desk with a grin. "Spill. Who's the guy?" I laughed it off, but my stomach twisted. Maya was queer herself, and I knew she'd understand, but admitting it out loud felt like crossing a line I couldn't uncross. "Just enjoying life," I mumbled, avoiding her gaze. Meanwhile, Eli was struggling too. At school, one of his students, a perceptive 16-year-old named Jaden, caught him smiling at a text I'd sent. "Mr. Carter, you got a girlfriend?" Jaden teased, loud enough for the whole class to hear. Eli's face flushed, and he stammered something about just a friend. But the moment stuck with him, a reminder that our secret was a tightrope we were both walking. Thanksgiving loomed closer, and with it, the inevitable trip to Idaho. I hadn't told Eli I was going alone. I hadn't told him I wasn't ready to bring him home. The thought of facing my parents, of seeing the disappointment in their eyes, made my chest tight. But the thought of losing Eli was even worse. One night, as we sat on my couch, the same one where it all began, Eli turned to me. "Caleb," he said, his voice steady but serious. "I need to know where we stand. I'm all in, but are you?" I wanted to say yes, to promise him forever, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I kissed him, hoping it would be enough. It wasn't. The drive to Idaho was a 6-hour blur of country music and dread. My parents' house, a modest ranch-style home in Boise, felt like a museum of my childhood. Full of memories I wasn't sure I wanted to revisit. My mom hugged me tightly, her smile warm but probing. "You look tired, Caleb," she said. "Everything okay in Portland?" I nodded, avoiding her eyes. Dinner was a tense affair, with my dad grilling me about my job and my sister Sarah, dropping hints about finding a nice girl. I kept my answers vague, my mind on Eli. He texted me earlier. A simple, "miss you already." I hadn't replied. That night, I lay in my old bedroom, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars I'd stuck on the ceiling as a kid. My phone buzzed. Another text from Eli. "Hope you're okay. Call me if you need me." The words broke something in me. I wanted to call him, to hear his voice, but I couldn't. Not here. Not now. The next day, Sarah cornered me in the kitchen. "What's going on with you?" she asked, her voice sharp. "You're acting like you're hiding something." I froze, my heart pounding. "I'm fine," I said, but my voice cracked. Sarah's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, I thought she'd push harder. But she didn't. She just sighed and walked away, leaving me alone with my secret. Back in Portland, Eli was waiting. When I walked into my apartment, he was there, sitting on the couch with a nervous smile. "You didn't call," he said, his voice quiet. "I know," I said, dropping my bag. "I'm sorry." He stood, crossing the room to stand in front of me. "Caleb, I can't keep doing this halfway," he said. "I love you, but I need you to choose. Us or this secret." Tears stung my eyes. I wanted to choose him, to choose us, but the weight of my family, my past, my fears, it was too much. "I need time," I whispered. Eli's face fell, but he nodded. "Okay," he said, "but I can't wait forever." The weeks after Thanksgiving were a slow unraveling. Eli and I tried to hold on, but the cracks were showing. I was distant, consumed by guilt and fear. Eli was patient, but I could see the strain in his eyes, the way he hesitated before touching me. One night, everything came to a head. We were at a local bar, a queer-friendly spot called The Haven, surrounded by laughter and music. Maya was there, along with a few of Eli's teacher friends. For a moment, it felt like we could be normal, like we could just be us. But then a guy from Eli's past, his high school ex, walked in. "Eli Carter," the guy said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Still hiding in the closet?" The words hit like a punch. Eli's face went pale, and I felt my own anger rise. "Back off," I said, stepping between them. The guy laughed, but he left. The damage was done. Eli was quiet the rest of the night, and when we got back to my apartment, he finally broke. "I can't do this anymore," he said, his voice shaking. "I can't keep pretending I'm okay with hiding who I am, who we are." "I'm trying," I said, desperate. "I just need more time." "Time for what, Caleb?" he asked, tears in his eyes. "To decide if I'm worth it?" The words cut deep. I reached for him, but he stepped back. "I love you," he said, "but I need to love myself too." He left that night, and the silence in my apartment was deafening. Months passed, and the ache of losing Eli didn't fade. I threw myself into work, into distractions, but nothing filled the void. Maya noticed, of course. One day, she sat me down. "You're miserable," she said bluntly, "and I'm guessing it's about that guy you won't talk about." I broke then, telling her everything. About Eli, about my family, about the fear that had cost me the person I loved most. Maya listened, her eyes soft but firm. "You can't live for other people's approval," she said. "You deserve to be happy, and so does he." Her words stayed with me. That night I called Sarah. I told her everything about Eli, about who I was. She was quiet for a long time, then said, "I just want you to be happy, Caleb. We'll figure out the rest." It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. I reached out to Eli, not expecting forgiveness, but needing to try. He agreed to meet, and when I saw him, standing outside our favorite coffee shop, my heart leapt. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice breaking. "I was scared, but I'm done hiding. I want to be with you, out in the open, no matter what." Eli's eyes searched mine, wary but hopeful. "You mean it?" he asked. I nodded, tears streaming down my face. "I choose you. I choose us." He stepped closer, his hand finding mine. "Then let's do this," he said, a small smile breaking through. We didn't know what the future held. Family fights, societal judgment, the weight of being true to ourselves. But as we stood there, hand in hand, I knew we'd face it together. And that was enough.